You know the name, but do you know the man? Is he a misunderstood genius or a ferocious demon? A legendary master of his craft or a spiteful instigator who saw the world as his enemy? Is he someone to be celebrated or scorned? In this video, we're going to dig into the mind of Ty Cobb using words from the man himself in an effort to see if we can better understand this enigmatic figure from American history. And we'll simultaneously trace an imagined lifespan of an over 100-year-old piece of cardboard that bears his likeness. A card that, as the decades come and go, will see Cobb's public image and reputation evolve and change in a way that will mix myth with truth. What's up everybody, Alex here, and yes, today I'm serving up a fresh and particularly strong cup of coffee. This is an ongoing series that uses vintage baseball cards to explore baseball history. You know, it's just my opinion, but this 1909 E95 Ty Cobb baseball card deserves more love. Every time I see this imposing image of the man set against the fiery red backdrop, it gets me thinking about the player and the man behind the image. A lot's been said about Cobb over the years, most recently through Charles Learson's book, A Terrible Beauty, but I thought it would be interesting to hear from the man himself, or at least Cobb's thoughts as interpreted by ghostwriter John Wheeler, so I've pulled out some key moments from the 1914 publication Busting 'Em and other big league stories. Collectors love to ponder the unknowable history of our cardboard treasures. The stories our cards could tell, we often say. It's fun to wonder what the card's been through, what it's seen over the years. Well, today, let's go one step further and actually tell that story. At least, let's imagine one, just for fun. The start of an ordinary day for a boy and his friend from down the road. The kind of day that's filled with infinite possibilities, perhaps even an adventure. Before they get far, though, a farmer they know well stops them with a proposition. An honest day's work with payment promised on the other end. For their efforts, the boys are paid in U.S. silver, and their heads begin to spin with ideas of where to spend their freshly earned loot. I was brought up in the little country town of Royston, Georgia, and did not think that when I played ball with the other boys around the lots that I was preparing for what was to be my real-life work. Parents, as a rule, object strongly when a boy proposes to go into professional baseball. My father was no exception. "You won't be gallivanting around the country playing ball," said he, "but you'll go along to school, and then, when you finish there, do some real work." After a long argument, I finally induced him to let me try it for one season. I was 17 when I went with Augusta, and after 2 days of the season, they canned me. By this time, my father had taken more kindly to the idea of me playing, because he had seen some good notices about my work in the Augusta papers during the practice period, and especially after I got a double and a home run in the opening game of the season. I have found out since that he made it his duty to journey from Royston and watch that first game of ball, although he did not tell me he was among those present until some time afterwards. When Struthers, the Augusta manager, released me, my father was sore. He was never one to quit, and he would not let his son. "So long as you are in it now, you've got to stick long enough to show them that they were wrong, Tyrus," he said. To this day, I am still sticking in my effort to convince. Armed with their earnings, The boys enter. Of all the choices to be made with their riches, they each settle on a delicious slab of Philadelphia caramel, complete with a crisp new baseball card wrapped within. The only question was which player was encased inside. It could be a big name known throughout the whole wide world, perhaps Christy Mathewson, or maybe even that Georgia Peach himself, Ty Cobb. A ball player revered for his quick thinking and aggressive play. A name that sparks the imagination of every young fan who follows the game. Off into the wilderness, the child's kingdom. A brief respite from the adults and the realities of the world. A place to test boundaries, conjure up games, make lasting bonds. Nearby tracks and an approaching train. A dare is conjured from thin air. Get as close as you can. Who will be the first to break? The loser will give up his card. And so, the boy flinches first, and his Cobb card is lost to chance. It's too late now, can't go back. Fair is fair. Every game, every contest I enter is tough for me. There is no such thing as an easy ball game. You never find brains in a ball player who is without nerve or courage. Pitchers will test out a player's nerve as a new man breaks into the league, and catchers will aid him in this. If you step back and fail to stand up to the plate on the next pitch after a close shave, all the twirlers in the league are soon after you. I made up my mind that they could never say I lacked nerve, so I used to crowd the plate closer after a pitcher had offered me a beanball. That's the only way to do it. Base running is one of the most important and yet one of the most neglected parts of a ball player's business. The lack of proper base running ability on a club has kept many a likely team from winning a pennant. In running the bases, there are all sorts of tricks to be applied. The basemen are always on the job trying to spring new ones, and a ball player has to think fast to outguess some of the men guarding the sacks. One of the fastest at this is Hal Chase. One day, I was on second when there was a hit to the third baseman. He shot the ball to Chase at first, and I steamed for third base, which I made handily enough, and which I overran by a good margin on purpose. Chase was watching for this, so I souped him along until he shot the ball back to the third baseman. I waited until I saw him bring forward the ball to let it go, and then I let out for home. He saw what I was up to just as he let go of the ball and hurried his heave. The throw went bad, the third baseman fumbled it, and I scored. That is half of base running, catching the other side off its balance and pulling the unexpected, as it is half of almost any other branch of baseball. I could name countless men in baseball with great natural ability and no brains. Yes, it takes brains to make a star in the big leagues, as in any other business. I am constantly figuring on new ways to outguess the other side and add a hit or two to my string. Some of my best ideas have come to me at night, just before I fall asleep, when they say great poems often come to their authors. I get up and I write them down so I don't forget them. The baseball ideas, not the poems. A few years pass. Life begins to change on him. New experiences, new expectations. A visitor. She brings a small metal tin and some sad news. The boy down the road, his old playmate, has passed. It's a terrible thing. An accident? An illness? The adults speak in hushed tones. He's too frightened to ask for details. The metal tin is left behind. This belongs with you now, she says. At first, it sits in his room. Too eerie, too strange to open. But his mind always returns to his friend. Inside are relics from a childhood that has slowly been slipping away, and now is gone forever. And cards, including the one he once lost on a dare in the woods. Where has his friend gone? What does it mean to be a friend? Lots for a young mind to ponder in meditation. The card finds its way into his prayer book, the one his mother forced him to lug along to the service. It will rest there in the dark for some time. The crowd makes the ball game. How much pepper, how much enthusiasm, and how much baseball do you suppose a player would show if games were played to empty seats? Many big leaguers claim that the crowd and its rooting has no effect on them. That is not generally true. I know it has a big effect on me, but I like the opposition from the crowd. It makes me work harder. Many stories have gone out about the row I got into with the fan in New York. This same fellow had been bothering me on previous trips, and I was forced to work hard to hold in my temper. I had put his abuse down to the ordinary ravings of a fan who likes to believe he is tormenting a ball player. On the day in question, though, he singled me out and shouted remarks at me from the bleachers where he sat each time I passed the stand on the way to the bench. My temper began to go, though I did my best to control it. "Did you hear what he said?" asked Sam Crawford. "We're all behind you if you go after him," said my teammates from the bench. I purposefully did not come to the bench when my club went to bat for the next inning, since I had been up in the previous inning. I hung around the outfield and avoided getting within earshot of the man. But the next time I was forced to bat, I passed the left field bleachers where he was sitting. It seemed as if he had been letting his imagination run profanely wild during the time I was in the outfield, for he heaped a particularly vile volley on me as I passed him. Nothing could have stopped me then. My temper has always been quick, and when younger, it got me in a lot of trouble. In later years, I have exercised great control over it, realizing that it was a handicap and dangerous to me. But now, an old flash of temper seized me, and no power would have kept me out of the stand, even if I had known that every fan in it was armed with a repeating rifle, and that there was not a chance of me coming back alive. It was not courage. It was simply blind fury. As I try to recall the incidents of the next few minutes, they are all vague and hazy to me. I remember starting for the front of the stand, vaulting it, and struggling up through the group of fans until I found my man. The next thing I remember is coming back down the stands. The fans gasped at me in amazement, and the Detroit players standing nearby ready to help in case anyone tried to lay a hand on me. The odd thing is, I have no recollection of the important part of the incident, beating up my abuser. I got back home, and then came a warning by letter from a friend of mine in New York that the friends of the man I had attacked were preparing to get me. The threat worried me, and I took certain means to protect myself when I was next in New York, and did not walk in any dark streets alone. Only once did I believe a man was following me. It was in the subway one night, but now I think this impression may have been my imagination. I regret the entire incident because it was the only real trouble I ever had with a fan while on the ball field. Time marches on. He narrowly misses conscription brought on by a world at war. Now he finds himself at a rail yard, working as a telegrapher and clerk. Not far from reach, the prayer book rests, part of the card exposed to the dusty environment of the yard and decades of service to the company. Later it would be found in his den, amongst books and items accumulated over a lifetime. He would lead a fine life, surrounded by his wife and children. Through it all, childhood memories would seep in now and again, perhaps in between days, when dreams would take him back to simpler times. The tin would join other random items, now left for bargain hunters to find, its true history and meaning forever lost to time. But one day, years later, when one of his children would flip through their father's old Bible looking for forgotten keepsakes, Ty Cobb would finally see light once again. In the end, a card collector is merely a temporary custodian. At one point or another, the card will be passed on, like a baton through the ages, from one generation to the next. The collector's story may be lost to time, but the role they play lives on, as the player and the past is kept alive. So was Cobb a much maligned hero or a villainous racist? It's the question everyone loves to ask when they discuss Cobb. And here's the thing, it's the question that can't be answered quickly or easily. We tend to try to turn a historical figure like Ty Cobb into a concept rather than a person. We try to cram a lifetime into some short and quick anecdotes, when the truth is, like any one of us, Ty Cobb was a real human with real complexities. He wasn't all good, and he wasn't all bad either. Yes, Cobb once lost his temper and attacked a fan in the stands, which we can all agree is totally disgraceful. But he also acknowledged his own shortcomings and a deep regret for what he did, something that's rarely shared when that story is told. We don't have to like or condone the bad parts, nor should we only see the good parts. When we let the man be who he truly was, the good with the bad, we get a more accurate, a more human interpretation of the man, and of our own history as well. As for the card itself, like I said at the beginning, this was all just a bit of daydreaming on my end, but 100-plus-year-old cardboard does get the mind reeling if you stop once in a while and give it a chance. Even though I'll likely never know who truly owned this card and what it's been through, I'm grateful to those people who held on to it and passed it along to me, and someday, whether I like it or not, I'll do the same. Thanks for checking out the video, guys, and if you enjoyed this journey, check out more from the series. You'll find a link in the description below. I hope you'll join me for another cup of coffee in the future. Until then, take care, and I'll talk to y'all soon.